in architecture you supposedly need a love for physics, math, the sciences, but it kind of marries itself with technology and with art. Sort of, it's a marriage of the two. So I think I had that level of interest in both. And I think the thing that I'm interested in particularly is this notion of research. And that research is something that I do as part of my office, that we look and investigate a lot of things. Usually it's material explorations. It usually involves digital fabrication techniques, and it usually is on the cutting edge of geometry or working with computers. Research is a place for me to look at and understand things, but also architecture is a place to actually start to make it and put it out there so other people can look at it. Because I think ultimately architecture is a dialogue. It's actually about how you take it and then you bring it to a client and you talk with them about it, get them to fall in love with it, build something more than you could have done on your own. And I'm interested in discussing ideas, and school and academia is the best place to do it, I find. It's a great place to explore and understand things, and I think having the marriage of teaching as well as practice allows me to continue to explore ideas, but then have an outlet for them. That's where the office fits in. So it's actually a marriage of those two. So if I'm in parts of the United States, or if I were in Japan, or if I were in Europe, I can still be at home in the world. I can still see the world and evaluate it through this perspective. So I think it's seeing the world through architecture. That's really what I've been doing. And I think it's a wonderful profession because it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. Every day I'm discovering things. So I think that level of discovery is something that's really interesting and that drives me. Right now it's looking at a lot of advanced computer technologies and fabrication techniques and programs that allow me to get at different geometries. Right now there's this new wave of fabricating things, which I think is going to revolutionize the building industry, and it has a lot to do with the fact that you can draw something on the computer and actually literally send those digital files to a fabricator who actually creates this piece instantly. So there's a collapsing of the traditional hierarchies between contractors, architects, and the built product. Historically, the only people that ever built were architects in the past, were people that were part of the elite. If you look at what's happened now, it's democratized. Everyone can hire an architect. And what I think has actually happened over the years is that people's interests in architecture and in the design environment has steadily increased. I think it's an ever-growing circle of interests in architecture, an ever-growing interest in design that I think is going to just keep going. I'd say the ones that are the most successful are the ones that can communicate, because I have to both be a communicator with my client, understand what they're about, part psychologist. I have to understand the dollars that are involved in something like this, so you have to be able to talk to a bank to finance a project. You have to be a bit of a politician because you have to get things through the city and the city government, so you have to understand politics. You also have to know a lot about construction, because ultimately these buildings have to be built, and they have to be built by tradesmen. And you have to understand how they build things and why they're building things and what's their level of interest. And you also have to speak to your peers, because you have to actually speak intelligently about your work to get it recognized. It is kind of a long-ish road. Because you go through architecture school, that's 4 or 5 years right there, depending on if you get a master's or not, that's 2 or 3 more years. And then you have to intern for another 2 years at least. So you're into education for at least 7 to maybe 10 years, then you can start to practice. So by the time you're 40, maybe you're starting to get a little recognition. Think about it this way, if I was building a museum, most of them are around $140 million, I've got to convince someone to give me that much money to build something. And that's really, it takes, it's not going to happen for a 20-year-old.